We have more for your ears only. I'm Catherine Herzog.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. Terrorists don't represent any ethnic group. They don't represent any religion. Their act of violence is simply anti-human and anti-society. That was Noor Bekri, governor of Xinjiang, China, ordering a crackdown on violent separatist groups after a bizarre knife attack in the southwestern city of Kunming that left 29 dead and 140 injured, unofficially attributed to the region's Uyghur Muslim minority. Also last week, Chinese officials shuttered the elaborate sex trade that made the city of Dongguan a major tourist attraction. Now this.
Music from Shenyang, the Made in America Chinese dance troupe, sets the stage for our talk with Made in China American artist and illustrator James McMullan. Best known for theater posters commissioned by New York's Lincoln Center, his latest work is a memoir, Leaving China. An artist paints his World War II childhood, new from Algonquin Books, Workman Publishing, with 50 original watercolor paintings. And to talk about the book, that childhood, and his life since, Jim McMullan is on the line now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Some of the early chapters explain how your grandparents came to China in 1887 as missionaries. Were your detailed paintings of that period based primarily on photographs, family tales, or artistic imagination?
Well, for the earlier part of the book, there really was very little documentation of a visual sort that I could use. So it was pretty much imagination and, of course, stories that my mother had told me about my grandparents.
For moments you actually recalled, which came first, descriptive words or the paintings?
I had to, let's say, organize myself through the writing, but I don't think there was ever a time that the images were far from my mind.
And you've said your paintings for this book were much influenced by the Chinese art on the walls of your first home. Talk about that style and why you chose it.
Well, I'm talking about primarily the scroll paintings, the landscape scroll paintings, and probably the most obvious thing that I took from those paintings is the point of view that typically what you see in a landscape painting of that genre is that the artist seems to be standing on a high hill looking down at a scene probably near a river with a pavilion with little figures drinking tea, and then up at the tops of the mountains with the clouds swirling around them. So I've always been tremendously attracted to that idea of making paintings which are very much about figures operating in a larger sphere.
Your family's history in China is remarkable. Talk about how missionary work led to an orphanage for abandoned girl babies, to a trade school for them, to international commerce.
Yes. I mean, in one way, it would seem the usual imperialist story of missionaries going in and kind of finding a way to profit from the life there. But the thing was that they actually saved these girls by rescuing them from this tower in the cemetery to which their parents had taken them and abandoned them, and they taught them English. They became Christians. They taught them the Bible, and they taught them this trade. So, as a matter of reality, they actually gave these girls a fairly good life. And as I note in the book, they were much in demand as wives because they could speak English. They were Christians, and at that point in time in China, that was a good thing to be. And they knew a trade. The trade was called cutwork embroidery, which was very popular in those days, where patterns are cut out of a linen cloth, and then the edges are sewn, bound up in this embroidery, and the apertures flowers and other kinds of decorative elements are embroidered into each of these aperture shapes. And that became the thing that the McMullan Company was, I guess, well known for in those years. And they made linens of various sorts and tablecloths and napkins and even gloves, actually, ladies' gloves. Eventually they were sold in America and England.
You write about your father's love of music, including songs from a Cole Porter show that later became the subject of perhaps your most famous poster, Anything Goes. Did it strike you as something special when you got that assignment?
It did indeed. That era of music, very much because of hearing my father sing it, had always meant a great deal to me, and the songs of Anything Goes seem to personify my love of that style more than anything else, and the whole idea of Cole Porter. And I'm sure that my father, as he played the piano, tried to imagine that he was Cole Porter.
You write about the endless anxiety you experienced with all the traumatic moments, the coming in of the Japanese forces, movements of your young life. You think all that left you with lasting emotional scars or made you more resilient in the end?
Well, I think it did make me more resilient because I became a survivor. I mean, my sense of the world was that I was not going to be given easy passage, and that I had to, in some ways, protect myself.
Illustrator James McMullan is best known for theater posters commissioned by New York's Lincoln Center. His latest work is a memoir, Leaving China. An artist paints his World War II childhood. New from Algonquin Books, Workman Publishing, with 50 original watercolor paintings. We wish him well with it.
And here's another quote from the news. Any person who actually thought my Twitter feed was literally about verbatim conversations is an idiot. That was writer John LaFavre after Simon & Schuster canceled publication of his book based on what turned out to be embarrassing but fictitious talk overheard in the elevator at financial giant Goldman Sachs.
Next, have you met Miss Jones? Actress-singer Shirley Jones, for your ears only.